Day 20, guys, day 20. None less than a successful day for me because we have just touched 50% of 40 days of JavaScript initiative. Today, we are going to talk about a bit advanced tips and tricks about DOM using JavaScript. We are going to learn some of the concepts that you can use in your project and product so that you write less code and your code become more clean and more efficient. Let us get started with that. As usual, please support TapaScript by subscribing to it, commenting on the videos, liking the videos, because what I'm trying to do is to build a community of developer who can give their anything to learn fundamentals and learn logic building, learn problem solving. So if you are for that, please join in. TapaScript is going to help you out. Without any further delay, let us get started. So the first thing is about efficient DOM traversal. We have learned about DOM traversal, right? DOM is like a hierarchy from parent to child, from child to parent, one sibling to another sibling you can traverse. But you have to really utilize the optimal way of doing DOM traversal because for a complex DOM tree, for a complex DOM structure, DOM traversal is always costly. I have already told about a few properties and the methods through which you can traverse through DOM in a less expensive way. On index.html, I have a div with a class called card, and then there is a div here as well. Let's add one more div if we want over here. Now in this structure, if I have to traverse through, what are the most efficient way that I can traverse through without looping through, without unnecessary adding id for each of this element and then trying to access them? One of the mistake that most of the beginners make, that they tend to add id for each of this element and then they want to access those element using those id. There are few pitfalls of this approach. You have to manage multiple variables and multiple element values for those variables in your code. That's completely unnecessary and is going to make your code very messy. Instead of that, if you can get a parent, so from that element you can always traverse through the children. From there you can get to the sibling. From children again you can go to the parent. If you get a children, from there you can go to the parent, go to its sibling, from that particular children to its grandchildren, something like that, right? So let's see some examples. I can consider this div as the parent div. So in my index.js file, first let's query this parent. Const parent equals to document dot query selector, and here is the card. The card is the class name that I have added to this div. So using query selector, I can always query it. How can I go to the first child of it? I'm sure you'll be most familiar with this code where on parent you can do first element child to get the first child. Why we do first element child? Because we are dealing with HTML elements. We want to get the elements. That's the reason we do first element child. Okay, how can you get to the sibling of this particular first child? And if I say that I want to go to the next sibling, it's very easy. We have learned this. We can do first child dot next element sibling. That will return me the next sibling value. Okay, we got the first child. How are we going to get to the last child? We have learned this as well. Just like parent dot first element child, we can do parent dot last element child, and that's going to give me the last child. Okay, great. I have the first child. How can I get to the parent of it? We can always invoke the method parent element on the first child. That's going to give me the parent of the first child, which is nothing but this parent. So these are the efficient ways that you can actually traverse through your DOM than adding id or the class names to individual element querying. That's expensive. So don't make your UI sluggish by manipulating something which is not necessary. Do it in the way that you can flexibly manage, at the same time can keep your code clean as well. So first one is about efficient DOM traversal. Let's move to the next best practice, which is templates and cloning. In index.html, I have now added a template. So once you add a template is a tag in HTML. If you have not used it much, let me tell you, anything that you add inside this template gets added as a fragment. It means that it's not added to the DOM directly, but it is there as an element for you to access. Now, why this template is useful? Can you see this div to div? Looks like I am trying to create a card. Inside the card, I have a title and a description. So now if you want to dynamically create multiple cards, for that you can create this template. So the entire structure of the card I have kept inside this template tag, so that this structure is not yet attached to the DOM. If I go to my browser, I won't see this attached to the DOM. So if you see over here, if I inspect, I have this template, but inside this template I have this document fragment. So this is just a fragment, it's not yet attached to the DOM. And beside this, I cannot see that particular div at all. If I expand it, then only I'll see this div class card, but this is not attached to the DOM yet. So if I want to create card and attach each of those card dynamically to the DOM, I can make use of this cloning feature. So let's do that. This particular template having an ID called card-template. So first, I will be able to access that template using document.getElement by ID and passing the card template, isn't it? Now, after I get this template, the first thing that I would be interested in is to do the cloning. So let's do const clone, and I'll do template. From this, I'll take out its content, and then I will call the method called clone node and will pass true. It means I am interested in deep cloning, so that any nested structure also get cloned. After I have the clone, I basically have this div to div, because from the template I did the cloning on the content. The content of the template is this document fragment. So I am cloning this. I have the access to this. I can do a query selector using the class title to select this h2 and then put any content to this h2, isn't it? How can I do this? So on clone dot query selector, title is going to give me this particular heading tag, right? Access to this heading tag. On this, I can do dot text content and can say DOM advanced topic. Exactly similar to h2, I can also access p and put a text content, something like this. Clone dot query selector description dot text content. Hope you are learning something new. Now finally, this clone can be appended to document dot body dot append child, and I can push this clone over here. Now if I go to my web page, I will be able to see this new card got added. You see this? Now it's got added to the div. It has a title called DOM advanced topic. If I expand it, and it has a description as well. Now how beautiful is this? You can keep this entire line of code inside a function having two parameters, which can be title and description, and call this function by passing the title and description dynamically to create different cards for you from this template. Isn't that awesome? So you are not really putting these things into the DOM upfront. You are creating as a document fragment, making advantage of the document fragment. We're going to learn about document fragment just next, and then you are doing a cloning and keep creating your element and the element structure on the UI. I hope you find it useful. Up next, let's talk about document fragment and range. What is a document fragment? A document fragment, you can consider it like a lightweight container which you cannot really see, on your web page. It's an invisible container that used to group a bunch of DOM nodes before you attach to the main DOM. Why do we do that? Just now we have seen an example of a card, right, from the template. Like before even you do the direct operation on the main DOM, you can keep that in isolation. You probably can do certain things on top of this, and once you are done with it, you can then attach to the main DOM. So it helps to improve performance by reducing the repainting of your web UI, because every time you change a tiny bit of piece on your DOM, you are actually repainting your UI. So the less you repaint, the performance will be improved. Some of the key features of the DOM fragment. The first thing is, of course, it's not part of the main DOM tree until you insert inside, right? And then the next thing, it acts like a temporary container. It is a great handy methods for building a portion of the DOM, a chunk of the DOM, before you are adding them to the actual DOM. In the index.html file, let me take a UL, an unordered list with an ID called list. Now coming to the index.js file, first of all, we have to create this document fragment. Is using document.createDocumentFragment method. So create a fragment from document.createDocumentFragment method. Now let us add 3 li or the list element to this UL, but we are not going to insert it directly into the DOM. This UL has got added to the DOM already. Now I'm not going to get it like document.getElement by ID list and then append child to this UL directly. Rather, I'll be appending to the fragment, and then later point in time, when you want, you can add the fragment to the UL, right? So you're not impacting the main DOM directly. So for that purpose, let us create 3 li list item using for loop. Let I equals to 0, I less than equals to 3, I plus plus, then const li element is document dot create element li dot text content equals to item dollar I. So item 0, item 1, item 2, like that it will be. And then I have the fragment, right? I have created that. On this also there is something called append child. And here you will be adding each of these li. So you're seeing over here, I have not queried document.getElementID list. And on top of that, I am not adding this append child. I'm doing it on the fragment. Now, once this is done, you kept it ready. At any point in time later, maybe after a certain amount of repainting, certain amount of computation is done, then you do document dot get element by id. Now you do list, and then you do append child. Here you do the fragment. So till this line, there was nothing added to the main DOM. If I go to the DOM now, I don't see this getting added at all. You do see that? I'm not seeing this getting added. It's just an UL. Nothing has got added to the DOM. But if I enable this one, now this fragment will be getting added to the DOM. Means all these LIs will be part of the UL. I have item 0, item 1, item 2, item 3. So it's got added. All these LIs got added over here. Okay, I have done equals to 3. So 4 elements got created instead of 3. That's fine. Now let's talk about range. As you know about the fragment, what a range is, a range represents a fragment of a document that is between two boundary points. So you should have two boundary points. It can be through certain selections, manipulation, extraction, we'll see. So between two boundary points, if you want to have a fragment, that can be represented using a range. Now again, what are the key features of range? It works like a text or note. Usually it will be used for highlighting certain content or replacing certain content. It's very useful for rich text editor. You would have seen some kind of editor like Monaco or many other editors are existing, right? Programmatic editor. There lot of functionalities are there, like you highlight a text, you replace a text. On those cases where you have to select from one end to another end, so you have to have a selection and then you have to act on that. That is when this range will be useful. Okay, so let's see some example. On index.html file, let me add a paragraph p with an id called para. We are saying hello world, but it's in the bold, in the strong, and universe, this particular paragraph. Now let's use the capability of range. We'll be creating a range to do something on this paragraph. But before we get started, let us see how it renders. It renders this way: hello world and universe. Clear? Okay. So going to the index.js file, first of all, I want to access that paragraph. So const p equals to document.getElementById by id para. Now I have to create a range. The great part about this DOM APIs are on document you have all the methods and properties, right? We did document create document fragment. Similarly, document create range. This will give me a range. Now on range, I will select the start and the end on the element. So I'll say range dot, I hope the method is start. It is set start. Okay, set start. So on set start, first I have to pass the element which one I'm interested in. So when you do p.firstChild and then give an offset of 6, what does it mean? Here the first child is this particular text hello, right? Now p.firstChild is going to give me this hello, and then I have a 6 offset. So it means I'll start from hello is 1 2 3 4 5, and then there is a space. So I will start from this particular character, because first child is this one and I am going to seek for 6. So this one will be out. So my starting point is over here. So I'm starting from this strong world strong. That is what it is. So this will be after hello space. Now let's do range dot set end, and here let us do child nodes means your text node will come into picture, your actually element also coming into picture, right? All these things. So let's do child nodes, p dot child nodes. Let's pick up the third one, 0 1 2, third one, and then do a fourth offset. Now what this is going to pick up? This is going to pick up zeroth is this one, first is this one, second is this, and so this is going to pick up from and we are going to go 4. So from here, from this space 1, 2, 3, 4. So till here, that means I am going to pick up this particular strong world strong and till here. This is what I'm trying to extract out using the range. So if I do const content equals to range dot, is sometimes it is difficult to remember all these APIs, but they are very self-explanatory. It says clone contents. Yeah, clone contents. And then if you do console dot log of content. Okay. Now let's see the output. Output I'm expecting that it will start from here and it will go till the end of and. This is the output. Let's go to over here. So what it returns also, see, it returns a document fragment. It is not returning the actual DOM element. And over here I see I start from this strong and I go till the end of this and. Correct, na? So this is how you can use range to select a fraction of an element or the element content, and then as you got it as a fragment, now it is still not added to the main DOM, right? You can add it to the main DOM using the append child method, just like we have done with this particular list before. But these are the things, this range, then this document fragment are the one that you should be using very often when you're doing DOM manipulations, doing lot of things dynamically. Instead of touching your main DOM directly, you might want to do these things outside of main DOM. Now the things are done. For example, here your selection is done. Now you can very well put a background color to this yellow color. That portion will be highlighted and then add that into your main DOM. So what will happen? Your main DOM will be changed only after you have added that background color for highlighting it. So that's how some of the editor also works. If you've seen some of the editor, there you select a particular sentence or a phrase and say highlight. This is how it happens. Hope it was useful. Up next, let us talk about something called Shadow DOM. And here I'm just going to give you an introduction to Shadow DOM. I'm not going to get too much deep into it. It's an altogether different subject. You can read from variety of other tutorials like MDN to get deeper into it, but let me give you some high level concept. So before we go to Shadow DOM, what is DOM? The main DOM or the document object model is a representation of the entire web page structure. We know that. When do we use DOM? We used for all standard HTML elements access, putting dynamic behavior into it, for rendering, for manipulating the page content. All these elements are fully accessible and that can be modified by JavaScript and the CSS. You can change it anytime. If you have a div like this with a class card and then there is a heading and a paragraph, you can very well access this div in your DOM using document.querySelector card, right? .inner HTML is going to give you the entire HTML structure of that particular div tag, correct? Whereas Shadow DOM is not DOM. It's mostly useful for creating something called web components. It lives in isolation where the isolated styling, isolated logic can be encapsulated. It's a separate encapsulated DOM tree which can be attached to any of our regular HTML elements. Okay, we call that as shadow host. So there is a term that you will be hearing called shadow host. We can attach to it. As I told that it is mostly used for creating web components, and also it gives us control, like whatever it is encapsulating under that, whether from outside you should be able to change those CSS, you should be able to have access to those script or not. Now when to use that or who you can use that, this is mostly used inside a custom element in HTML also, not like React, right? With raw JavaScript, HTML also, you can create custom elements. Custom elements are something like my hyphen component. Something like this I can create. We already have few custom elements inbuilt that are like video tag. You know that, right? These custom elements, what they do, they hide the internal structure. Okay, they encapsulate the CSS, JavaScript from the outside world, so that outside world cannot access and modify them unless it is explicitly exposed by the developer to do that. Now, how can we create such thing and where exactly it will be useful? Let's take a glimpse of it. On my HTML, let me create a div. I have created a div with an ID called box. Now, if I have to access this using DOM, I'll be doing document.getElement by ID. I can get the box, pass the box, I can get a box, and inside that I can do text content, append child, and all these things. But if I have to use this particular element to attach a shadow DOM, the first thing that I would need is a shadow host. So I'll be using this particular div itself as a host and create a shadow host. So I've created a const shadow host equals to document.querySelector. I have passed the ID of it. Now this is just like document.getElement by ID, document.querySelector. This is just the element, right, that is giving you. It's nothing a shadow host yet. Why? Because we have not attached any kind of shadow to it yet. So let's do that. To create the shadow, you will do const shadow equals to your shadow host dot, you have a function called attach shadow, and here you can pass an object to specify what is the mode of it. If you keep the mode as open, that means from outside you are allowing the encapsulated HTML and the JavaScript to be modified. If you keep it closed, nobody can do that from outside. So depending on your use cases. Now on the shadow, you can do maybe inner HTML and can add some HTML to it. I have added a style p color red, a style tag, and then hello shadow, something like this. So I have added a style, I have added a HTML structure. If I go back to my UI, I can see this hello shadow over here. If I inspect this guy, you see this? This is under the shadow root. It is open. It means that through this div ID, I can access this particular p tag outside. I can also access this style and I can modify it. That is why it is open. If I pass at close, it would have been close. I would not have been able to do it. But see the structure. I've specified the style over here. That means anything comes inside this shadow root will be in the red color. And then I have started putting this p tag over here. The advantage of this thing would be this particular style, this particular element, I can put script also, or the script inside it together can become my own custom component. And that custom component I can use elsewhere in form of web component. So please guys, learn about it. I just given you a glimpse of it to differentiate, like the shadow DOM is not the main DOM that we're talking about. Even on your dev tools also, when you inspect, it does this differentiation that it's a shadow root, it's a shadow DOM, it's on a shadow host. This divide is a shadow host. It's not part of your main DOM yet. So some of the key differences between a browser DOM or the shadow DOM, the browser DOM scope will be the global and shared. The shadow DOM scope is always local to the shadow root or the shadow host, and it is always encapsulated. The styling, for doing a DOM styling, you will have a CSS file. You will define your style inside the CSS and then you include in your HTML and you will use it. So it's a global CSS that you apply. For shadow DOM, it is always scoped and the isolated CSS that you apply, isolated style I would say, you apply over here. You can access from outside. It is fully accessible for the main DOM. For shadow DOM, it depends on this particular mode that you have passed. What is the use case? For regular elements and the regular page, you will be using browser DOM. Shadow DOM, you will be using mostly for the web components, internal UI, all this kind of stuff. I hope this makes sense to you. The next thing I want to touch base is about advanced class manipulation. And I think this is just going to be a revision because we have spoken about it enough. For example, if I take a button, class equals to btn, and I say some button, I can access this button using this class and the query selector. I can do this const button equals to document.querySelector btn. Now, if I have to add a class, I won't be using a class name again. Rather, I'll be using the class list. With class list, I can add a new class. If I have to remove a class, what can I do? Very easy, class list.remove. We have learned all this. Just again recap. If I want to toggle, I won't do remove and add again. I already have a toggle. Using that, I can do it. And we can also replace using a function called replace. So add, remove, toggle, replace are the one that you will be using mostly for doing the class manipulations. Please keep that in mind. Let's talk about handling large scale DOM updates where let's say you have to insert 1000 data at one point in time. How would you do it? What will be the solution? I have already given you the solution in this video itself, but let me just do it once more. Let me break these things well for you. Instead of directly adding it to the DOM, main DOM, you will be using something called a document fragment. So let me give you a function and then explain that function to you. So here is a function called add items, which takes count as a parameter. Now this count can be till 1000. So for example, I can call add items passing 1000, right? Now what is this 1000? It's a count. What is this count for? It is looping through and creating div. Can you see this? It is creating div. It is looping through creating div. Inside each of the div, it is adding a text content. But each of those text content is getting added to something called fragment, which we have already learned. And finally, after the loop is finishing, then the entire fragment is getting added to your document body, which is your main DOM. Now, using a document.body.append child instead of fragment here is much more costly, because in each of the iteration, you are adding something into the main DOM, you are repainting the main DOM. So here you will be repainting the main DOM 1,000 times if you had document.body.append child on the line number 71. But as you are using a fragment and using the for loop to add the things to the fragment, at the end you are adding the fragment to your document.body.append child, you will be repainting the DOM just once. So these are the things, guys, you need to remember. You have to remember a lot, because this makes the difference between someone coding like an amateur versus someone coding after knowing the facts inside it. Now, the last thing of this video is called Mutation Observer. Mutation Observer is an JavaScript API. It's a super handy tool. You are going to love this. You will use it when you want to watch on the changes in your DOM. For example, a node has got added, something got removed, something got changed. Now, without constantly polling for whether something has got added, whether something has got deleted, something has got changed, what if you get notified automatically so that you can do something? You click on a button, you expand certain area. It means that you have expanded, means you would have added something into the DOM. The moment it's get added something into the DOM, you want to do something else, because you now know through the mutation observer that something has got added. So what is Mutation Observer? The Mutation Observer is a built-in JavaScript API that lets you observe changes to a DOM element or a subtree, and then help you to react to it via a callback function. We are going to see it. But when are you going to use it? Of course, when you will be using to detect new changes into your DOM and the subtree. What kind of changes? Something got added, something got removed, some text got changed, some attribute value got changed. So monitoring all the DOM related thing in the single place and tracking all these things together is what a Mutation Observer is used for. So what is the syntax of it? There are basically two things that you need to do. First, Mutation Observer you have to create using new Mutation Observer and pass this particular callback. This callback will be executed whenever a particular mutation happens, something has changed in your DOM structure. And then using this observer, you are going to observe a particular node under which or on which you are expecting certain changes to happen. And this config through which you can tell like what kind of mutation on what kind of mutation you are interested in. So type of mutation to watch is to be told using this config parameters. Now let's take some example. Index.html, I have added a div called watch me having a text called hello, and there is a button which is going to change the DOM. That's what we're going to do. Okay, so now we'll be observing this change and we'll be able to take certain decision based on the changes that are going to happen. Okay, so first thing first, in this div I'm going to change something, so I have to access this. How am I going to access? Of course, using watch me. So that's my target node. Let me get the target node. Const target equals to document.getElement by id. I pass the watch me. Now I'll be creating my observer. Observer equals to new mutation observer, and this should take the callback. Callback is a function. Now this particular callback gets two parameters. One is the mutation list and another the observer reference itself. We'll see what is the use of them. So I'll complete this. The mutation list talks about what are the different kind of mutations happened on this target node that I'm observing. It's a list, so that means I can loop through it. So to loop through, I'll be using a for off loop. So const mutation of mutation list. Okay, I'll take each of the mutation out. Now here I'll do console.log. Let's say what is the type of mutation. Let me print out. Type of mutation is mutation.type will give me the type of mutations. Now what is the type of mutation? There are varieties of different type of mutations possible. For example, your mutation type could be attributes. That means an attribute has changed. If a child node is added or a child node is removed, then the mutation type will be child list. Then if a text data change, then the mutation type will be character data. So there are different type of mutation types available. You can read about all those mutation types in the MDN documentation. Now let me do certain condition. Let me handle a few of them. If a mutation type is a child list, that means a child node is added or removed, right? So I can do a console.log saying that a child node was added or removed. Similarly, let me copy this two more times. 1, 2. If the mutation type is attributes, I can say attributes a particular attribute name which has changed was changed. Then if a mutation type is a character data, I can say now the text content has changed for this particular target data. So like that, I have defined now for child list, for attributes, for character data, what are the things that I am right now interested in tracking. Now I have created the observer. The next thing that I have to do is observer.observe. So I have to do observer.observe, and then I have to pass the target node, or target node is this particular target, and then I have to pass a config. Remember, now let's declare a config. Const config is an object. Here you can say that what and all you want to track, or what kind of mutations you are interested in. So I am interested in my subtree, of course. I am interested in my character data because I am tracking this character data over here. Yeah, this one. So I'm interested in character data, and I'm also interested in child list and attributes because child list and attribute is also I'm tracking. And then I can pass this config to this guy. Excellent. Now it started tracking. So you see there is a hello and there is a change DOM. Now change DOM function, what I have over here, I have not defined it, right? Let's define the change DOM function. Let's do a function change DOM, and inside that I already have the target, right? So target, let's do some changes. Let's do text content equals to goodbye, and then target dot, let's add an attribute, set attribute. Let's add a data attribute, data hyphen status value is changed. So now when I'll be clicking on this change DOM button, the changes we're doing, we're changing this text content from hello to goodbye. So that means a new node is getting added. The hello node is gone removed and a new node goodbye will be added. I'm also doing another change called set attribute. So the data status is changed. So attribute change also will happen. So for sure, this is going to get executed. This is going to get executed, right? A new change, a new node is getting added, new text node is getting added, and the attribute change is going to happen. I'm also printing here type of mutation to catch, like what are the mutations it is catching while observing it. So let's go back to UI. I have this change DOM with hello. Let's click on change DOM. I see first type of mutation is the child list, of course, because the hello gone goodbye, a new text node has got added. So a child node was added or removed. Type of mutation is attribute. I'm doing a set attribute. Attribute data status I have added as changed is its value. So you see that whenever there is a change happening, using this mutation observer, now I can catch that and I can do needful. Here I'm just doing console.log. You can do any other things. You can create a fragment. Later point in time, you can add the fragment to your main DOM. You can hide something, show something up to your wish. So I hope this is another thing you enjoyed learning. Mutation observer, please practice it. So guys, we learned a lot about some of the advanced concept of DOM. Actually, we have learned a lot about DOM in last few videos, isn't it? Now we are almost at the end of our DOM module. The only thing left in this module is to do a project, a mega project using DOM, including everything that we have learned. That's what we'll be doing next. That will be our 21st video. And after that, this module over and a new fresh module gets started with asynchronous JavaScript. That's my favorite part from the entire JavaScript world. So definitely stay tuned to that. And if you like today's video, please post a like, post a comment, come to Discord, discuss about things. See you soon.